Greetings everyone, Joseph James with the Nightly Newsletter, brought to you by the schooloftrade.com. Today was July 14th, 2009. Kind of a sleepy Tuesday here on this summer Tuesday morning. Before we go over our trade room results, ended up down about $300 today in the market. Only had one trade. We'll go over it a little bit later on. And of course, was a losing trade on the DAX. Had an early exit, and I'll give you guys some more information about that trade here in just a second. Now, of course, brings our weekly total. We're still up 260 on the week, and our monthly total here of 25.55. This, of course, is on 3 contracts. So we'll keep you guys posted as we make our way through the month of July. Come out and see us live in the trade room tomorrow morning, and of course, we'll show you how we take these trades live in real time. Let's talk about the term of the day. Now, the term of the day is dynamic support and resistance. Now, of course, we all are probably relatively familiar with what support and resistance is, but using the term dynamic brings on a whole new form of what these levels are on our charts and how we use them. Let's talk about them. Dynamic support and resistance. Well, support and resistance is essential for any day trader. It's one of the tools we use throughout the day, and it helps us, of course, make educated trading decisions. Well, dynamic support and resistance is always calculating, and it's always changing. It's going to move or recalculate or change with the market by the tick. So every single tick of volume that hits that market, this indicator, the dynamic support and resistance, will be changing along with the market. Examples of these are going to be moving averages, momentum indicators, and of course developing value areas if you're a market profile trader. It's used in the James Wave method, which we apply in the trade room every morning, to filter out the higher risk trades. We use it across multiple time frames, so we're looking for dynamic levels of support and resistance, in other words, moving averages, momentum indicators, across multiple time frames. We'll start with the slower time frame first, because the slower the time frame, the more important the dynamic support and resistance. So if I have a moving average on a 1-minute chart, on a 5-minute chart, and on a 30-minute chart, the 30-minute chart, that dynamic support and resistance will be more important, or will expect to hold more than the 5-minute and the 1-minute. So the slower the time frame, the more important the level is. And we're going to watch these dynamic support and resistance levels throughout the day, and especially while you're entering the trade. They may have recently changed. Remember, dynamic levels, right? These dynamic levels of support and resistance are going to be changing every tick of the market. So if you're qualifying a trade at 9 o'clock, remember, at 9:05, some of the aspects of the qualification process may have changed a little bit because they include these dynamic levels of support and resistance. So make sure you watch closely at these levels when you're about to enter the trade. They may have recently changed. Now here's an example of a moving average. Here's a couple moving averages acting as resistance. And of course, moving averages, as you guys know, is one of the more popular or more widely used dynamic levels of support and resistance. It's always changing, always calculating. And as you can see, as price moves to the downside, the dynamic moving averages, the always calculating moving averages, they follow it right down, and they act as wonderful levels of overhead resistance. Now guys, let's talk about our trade room. The beginner's course is always recommended for our trade room participants. So if you're joining as a free trial member, pick up a copy of the beginner's course. It'll be worth your time and your money. It's a very solid foundation to build on. So if you're looking for kind of a jump start with your trading in the trade room, pick up a copy of the beginner's course. It's a great investment in your future. We're going to open that trade room at 2:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We open it for trial members and lifetime members. We're going to trade the European session first and the U.S. morning session second. Of course, so starting at 3 o'clock, we'll trade from 3 to 6, and then we'll usually get back in about 7:30 to 11:30, 11:45. We'll finish up the trading every day at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, and we have 3 very simple jobs to follow when we get into the room. Identify, adjust, and execute. We identify such things as the news events. We identify what the market looks like. We then adjust to what we see by adjusting to those news events with our alarm clock. We mark our support and our resistance levels to define our trade zones. And then if we do jobs number 1 and 2 correctly, job number 3 becomes quite simple, and that's to execute the trades. We wait patiently, we use discipline to follow our rules, and wait for the perfect price pattern to set up for us. We encourage our members to stop thinking so much and let their rules do the trading. And of course, we're going to provide you with all those rules tomorrow morning. So come join us in the live trade room. It opens up at 2:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's talk about some trades we took today and some things we saw in the market. Now today was a pretty slow and choppy day, and of course on the Euro futures, you guys can see here, we identified this wedge pattern. You can see the wedge moving from left to right as the trend lines, these green trend lines, begin to box in this price. Well, we saw this price pattern early this morning, and we identified that quite early, and we weren't expecting very much out of this market because of that well-defined wedge pattern and the low volume we've seen here in the summer months. But we did notice something here that was very interesting, and I wanted to point this out to you guys. We commented on this in the room today, and I'll kind of zoom in here. You'll notice we have this yellow box that's shaded here at the top. Now, this is a slower time frame, so it's a 5-minute, 8-minute, 10-minute chart, somewhere around there. On a slower time frame, we're looking at the bird's eye view of the market. And the important thing you want to see here is this red circle here just below this yellow box. Notice the first time that price broke out of this yellow shaded area for the first time, and then follow your eyes all the way down to the volume indicator at the bottom of this chart. Now you'll notice as price breaks out, the volume drops. So we ask ourselves, where are all these traders? And more importantly, when we see the volume start to trickle off, right, start to really disappear towards the extremes of this yellow box, well, that tells us that there are very few people looking to participate in the market above or below this tight trading range. Now, when we see things like this happen in the market, it's a level of sentiment. It's a little bit of a heads up, some sort of communication from the market telling us that we're probably in store for a low volume, light back and forth trading morning here. And of course at 9 o'clock, this gave us a pretty good heads up that we probably wanted to really exercise caution here in this market. Remember, when we see the volume drop, when price moves, that's never a good sign. So watch your volume indicators, and you can see here by these red arrows here, that when we see the volume drop, we also see price move. And that will usually tell us that as price is trying to break out of this trading zone here, as it breaks out of this yellow box, we see fewer and fewer people trying to get involved, which is never a good sign. Come out and join us tomorrow. We'll give you more examples of this stuff live in real time, and you guys can see how it plays into our trading day. Now, the only trade we took today was a loss on the DAX at 441 this morning. This is a two-step short here at 58.5. Now, one of those trades where ultimately had to make a pretty tough decision on what to do with this thing. I exited early on sluggish price action here, took a 3-point stop, and ultimately with 3 contracts, 369, that's a total of 9 points. Now, the markets, of course, today were very light, very choppy. It seemed like we were qualifying dozens and dozens of trades that just barely missed our rules. But of course, as I always say, we can't pick and choose when and when not to follow those rules. The same rules that made us thousands of dollars every day in the months of March, April, May, and June are, of course, showing lower volume now, and those rules, of course, are protecting us from getting into some of the more dangerous trading systems, right? Some of the more dangerous trading environments that this market's giving us here in the summer months. Remember, follow those rules. They won't let you down. They're going to keep you out of the bad trades. But of course, today, right, kind of get the short end of the stick here on this one trade and really didn't get any chance to get back into the market throughout the rest of the morning. All right, let's recap. Live trade room opens tomorrow morning at 2:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll trade 8 different markets. So we'll trade the E-minis, we'll trade the currency futures, the euro, the pound, we'll trade gold, crude. Guys, we'll trade pretty much anything that moves. We'll give you live trade calls with entries, targets, and stops. We'll show you how to manage the trades, how to take profit, and early exits. Guys, there'll be plenty of opportunity for questions, and education will happen all trading day. You'll see the market in a completely different way, and we'll give you 3 weeks to come out and join us as part of our trial. Want to remind you too, the beginner's course is recommended for all trial members, so download a copy of the beginner's course today and give yourself that firm foundation to build your education on. Drop us an email, sales@schooloftrade.com for more information. My name is Joseph James. Hope the video helped tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow morning in the trade room. 2:45 a.m. Eastern Time we open. We'll see you then.